COVID-19 is just now sort of affecting the market, and more or less there too we are on track with what we had projected. We have also not witnessed any major supply disruptions, especially because in Symphony we make sure that we order whatever we need to order for the summer before the Chinese New Year. So much before January, before the shutdown for the Chinese New Year, we had all our supplies were already all our components which we import from China were dispatched, and so we were very well covered. So we have not really seen any supply disruptions, and neither have our facilities in Australia or Mexico have experienced any sort of supply disruption so far for the same reason. As far as now the new financial year is concerned, as far as from April onwards is concerned, now that is going to be a huge question across the world, except China, which is now sort of getting back to normal. As far as India is concerned, I think all of us know what is going on. Things have suddenly escalated over the last weekend. Things appeared to be sort of normal up until Saturday. But with this Janta curfew and sort of lockdown in 70 districts thereafter, and Gujarat is now almost total lockdown since yesterday, the situation has sort of overnight turned into something very different than what was expected up until Saturday. So what the future has in store, how long this is going to last, is anybody's guess. But as far as the summer is concerned, the expectations are that the summer is going to be there, and the temperatures are going to be, are expected to be reasonable and conducive for sales of coolers. But if the markets are not open, and as you all know, all malls are shut, all the major retailers are shut, modern retail is shut, even the small dealers in small towns as of today are shutting down. And even if they are open, the customers are not venturing out into showrooms. So and even online is almost, and Amazon and Flipkart have sort of shut down. And maybe some of the grocery deliveries were going on, but as far as everything else is concerned, it's pretty much shut down. So it isn't as if any other alternate channels of sales also remain open. We had made arrangements for consumers to call, and a cooler will be delivered to a local dealer if they don't go out, if they don't wish to go out. But it appears that the logistics providers are also shutting down. So maybe that arrangement will also not sort of bear fruit. So it all depends on how long this is going to last. We all hope that so far India has seen just about 300 odd cases, and before this thing really gets out of control, spins out of control, the government has taken strong action, and we hope that by end of April or middle of April or so, this is contained and sort of life goes back to normal. If that were the case, then we should be in a fairly good place, because our material is out there with the distributors and dealers. Our supply chain is pretty much stocked, and the dealers would, and as far as Symphony is concerned, most of our material is paid for stock, so that the network would be very keen to unload Symphony stock first, over others. So we would be in a fairly good place. But if this were to extend into, let's say, May or June, then despite a summer and consumers wanting some relief through coolers, they may not really be going out to buy coolers, in which case the material will remain with the dealers. But now that is an extreme situation. We really hope that it doesn't happen, that this COVID-19 thing doesn't extend into May and June. But that is just the worst case scenario. But otherwise, internally we have taken sort of measures we see some opportunity in this in these circumstances where coolers are where there is a directive by the government that people should not be using air conditioners. People should not be be in a closed environment where air is recirculated. So in this kind of a situation, air coolers are preferred because you can leave your doors and windows open with an air cooler. In fact, air coolers perform better when doors and windows are kept open. So we have begun a campaign across the country in press, in television, in social media about this, and so that is something which is at least registering. It may not be able to result in sales because, like I said, if the markets are shut and consumers are not going out, there will be no sales. But at least we have taken this initiative. Moreover, another issue is that in the case of air conditioners, they need installation. So people don't want the technicians to come and install air conditioners in their homes. So that's another thing going in the favor of air coolers, and more specifically Symphony, which is a plug-and-play product. So you just go out, buy it, and start using it. So that's another thing in our favor. So these are two things which I would say favor air coolers and Symphony over air conditioners. As far as competition within the air cooler industry is concerned, if this situation if the COVID-19 were to extend into May and June, and if this were to be, a watershed summer, then it will also see maybe the exit of some of the newer players who would be fairly badly hit because they would have a lot of inventory which would not have been sold, and their dealers may also have the channel inventory would also be there for which the companies may not have received money. So there might be some consolidation that this crisis may lead to in the air cooler industry. So I would say that is as far as India is concerned. As far as Australia is concerned, it is going into the winter months, and in fact, what we have seen now in Australia is that people are ordering more heaters because they're staying at home and they need the heating equipment. So in fact, there is a bit of a spurt in demand for our heaters in Australia. However, if this were to escalate in Australia and if there were to be a lockdown and a shutdown in Australia, then our heaters there are all central heaters, so they need installation. So consumers might not allow technicians to come and install those heaters. But at least as of now, there is a spurt in demand. And like I said, if this were to extend and were to escalate into a bigger situation, then we might not really see the full benefit of this spurt in demand. As far as Mexico is concerned, there too, so far things are fine. Even manufacturing is going on. And the federal government in Mexico is actually, shying away from taking any major steps because they don't want to hurt the economy. But the states are more aggressive in Mexico, and they are taking measures. So the northern states, which are the cooler markets, if they were to take some aggressive measures, it's a different story. But in Mexico, peak summer is still, I would say, really is off. Peak summer months are, May, June, July. So if the crisis were to blow over by the end of April, we will still be able to salvage the summer. And all the materials available there, all the coolers, they have been shipped there, local manufacturing is going on, components have arrived. So there are no logistics or supply chain disruptions. It's just at the market end, what would happen. As far as China is concerned, things are sort of going back to normal in China. Most of our products sold in China are bought by industries and installed in the industries. So the industrial sector in China is going through fair bit of pain because of like the trade war and now this. So it remains to be seen, how quickly industries sort of reorganize and start investing again. But the summer is yet to come in China, and also resumed. So China, the situation is a little different, but we are still hopeful that China should be in a better place than Mexico or Australia or India. So with that, I think I've given an overview of this year and next year and different geographies. Is there anything that I missed which you want to add?
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sir, we are not able to hear you clearly. Your voice is breaking up.
Oh. So how much was missed? I don't know.
So the last 1 minute.
Okay. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's slightly breaking still.
I see. Okay. Did I miss anything? Then maybe you can jump in and fill in.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Your voice is still breaking up.
Can you?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. Why don't you carry on?
Yeah. So I think Achalvi has given a fairly good overview about the current quarter of domestic business as well as international business. Just to add to that, as far as gross profit margin is concerned in the current year and in the current quarter, it's absolutely in line with 1 year, 2 year or 3 years before it was, which is on variety of factors. That's number one. Launch of new models which have been received really very well. And in many of those models, they are having path-breaking features and also performance and format and design. Number two, also on account of value engineering and also because of economies of scale and operating efficiency. Otherwise, I think HLB has given a fairly good overview. So if nothing more to add, we can open it for question answer if any.
Yeah, we can open the session for Q&A, please. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the question and answer session. Anyone wishing to ask a question, may please press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Nitin Arora from Axis Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi. First of all, thank you to every management for really taking out time and telling us what's really happening on the ground. So thanks a lot for that. 2 questions. One on the overseas business with China, Mexico, and climate technology, Australia. Achal bhai, do you anticipate any risk or any anticipation in terms of risk where how much cash flow support we need to do there if things go worse? Because we just started reading, as you also highlighted, Australia is going for a 5-month shutdown. These are all media reports. Or a 3-month shutdown, borders are getting sealed. Just wanted to understand, not from a sales point of view, but from a supply chain and from a cash flow support point of view, do you see any anticipation there for the overseas business?
Yeah. Achal bhai, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah. Achal bhai, are you there?
Yeah.
Could you
Yes,
listen
yes.
to the question?
Yeah, I did. So I was saying that, if depends on sales, if there is no sales, then there will be pain in the cash flow in Mexico, Australia, and China. In India, it will not be so bad because we have a different business model and, we have the cash resources. But as far as the other geographies are concerned, if there is a drop in sales and demand, in the next quarter, there will be, cash flow pain. But that is something which we will sort of have to, sort of weather and find ways around.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I think, Mr. Arora, you said that there has been a lockdown and a shutdown of the factories in Australia as far as climate technology is concerned. As of now, it is fully functional. Not only that, it has been approved as an essential commodity and essential industry because most of the people are at home and this caters to their basic essential. So as far as climate technology operations are concerned, it is absolutely unimpacted and unaffected as of now. And I think if we really quantify financially, even if it is going to be the worst, at the most we may have to fund to the extent of part of the overheads and some of the working capital requirement, which in totality, we don't expect really material.
Got it. Thank you very much, sir. The second question is with respect to India. Can you quantify what could be the channel inventory at this point in time? Number one, and number two, what kind of measures you are taking to support your distributors, modern retail channel, and how much generally is modern retail for you as a percentage of sales? That's my last question.
So as of now, there is, I would say, a fair amount of material in the channel. I wouldn't be able to quantify it, but because we are at the beginning of the summer, so most of what has been bought in the previous months have all been bought in to sell in the next 3 months. So, and because of the delayed summer, much or most of that would still be lying with the channel. And so that is one thing. And in terms of support, there is really at this point everything is shut, so there is no question of being able to do any support, even if we were to wish to do something. So as of now, there is nothing special that we are doing. But once things reopen and once things sort of come back to normal, and that time, depending on the situation, depending on what is the requirement, we will do whatever is required.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
yeah, and as it was a beginning of the season, I think many distributors have also successfully placed good part of the inventory with the dealers. So it's not like entire inventory is lying just with the distributors. It has also gone to a next level.
Yes. So a lot of it, but basically it is still within the channel, distributor
Channel,
and
yeah.
dealer. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Naveen Trivedi from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my question is with respect to you mentioned about in March you lost around 10% kind of revenues. If you can just give us some flavor
of the quarter.
If you can just give us some flavor about your Jan and Feb performance, where because typically these are the time in the South market you start building your inventories. So how has been the trend pre-COVID time? I can understand the last 3 weeks time, but if you can just give us some flavor about that.
No, so like I said, why not only January, I can tell you, give you a flavor for the whole quarter. We are more or less on track with 17-18. The same quarter of 17-18. And we will end the year with more or less similar numbers as 17-18. So that just to the 10% of the
Sorry to
quarter
interrupt,
would have.
sir. Your voice is breaking up.
Well, there's nothing I can do about that. Naveen, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. So that 10% of the quarter would have been a little bit additional, but notwithstanding that, I think we will end the year with more or less similar levels, 17-18.
And also for the quarter March 20, even vis-a-vis March 18 quarter, top line wise, we should be in line with that, despite this loss of about 10% of quarterly sales. So, of course, there is going to be a growth over March 19, but even vis-a-vis March 18 quarter, it should be by and large in line with March 18 quarter.
I just don't understand when you said the situation is more like 2017-18. Because that was a time when the season was very weak and our inventory was significantly high. If I look at now, season has just started, or at least I think it's delayed by around 10 days. So when you're saying it is similar to 17-18, you're talking about only the fourth quarter, or you're talking about the upcoming season?
I'm talking about the fourth quarter, and I'm talking about the financial year.
Financially, FY20.
FY18.
No, but when you're comparing with the 17-18, you're comparing FY21.
Comparing what?
When you're saying the situation is like 2017-18,
Yeah.
then you're saying you're talking about the upcoming season performance. Because that year we had seen around
financial year 17-18, April-March 17-18 to April-March 19-20.
Okay. My next question is, I think if my understanding is right, for the air cooler, peak season is in May. For the consumer offtake point of view.
No. It is, in fact, it begins in March and then goes on, so in parts, so it begins earlier in the south and begins a little later in the north, but it begins in March and sort of trails off in June. So the peak months are, I would say, April and May.
Thank you.
For secondary sales.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ronak Vora from AUM Fund Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Where are we in terms of raw material procurement?
In terms of raw material procurement, like I said in my opening remarks, so far we have we had whatever material we had needed. So as far as incoming supplies are concerned, I think there is not much of an issue. Question is the local manufacturing is all shut down. So raw material is not much of an issue, but so we have a lot of imported components. Those are on the way because China has reopened, and the domestic suppliers are shut down. Domestic manufacturing is shut down, so our OEMs are shut. So at this moment, our production has ground to a halt.
Okay. So do we see like the imports coming in on a normalized basis?
They are already begun. The question is now where will those containers will lie at the ports.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the last question. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Renu Baid for a closing comment.
Thank you, Izan. On behalf of IFL, I would like to thank the management for giving us the time and sharing the on-ground situation with investors. Thank you so much, sir. Any closing remarks from your end?
So that's why you want to wind up?
So I believe vis-a-vis competition, we are much better placed. And once situation normalizes, I believe our edge over competition will in fact further enhance. And ultimately, any business or any industry is not run just for a week or for a month or for a couple of months. So we are really looking at a very, very bright future in the medium term to long term. And of course, in a couple of weeks, if situation normalizes, I think there is not much to lose, but we need to keep the finger crossed. Thanks, and thank you everybody for your participation and sparing your valuable time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone. Stay safe.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of IIFL Securities Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect the line. Thank you.